Hello, my name is Michael Filato. I'm the CEO and founder of Full Throttle Filato Leads. We basically do email, LinkedIn, and roundtables, and we're experts in automating that whole process. So today I'm basically going to introduce myself a little bit, talk about the current state of many organizations and what they do to do outreach and how sometimes they're breaking their domain or ruining their LinkedIn profile by doing it. To talk a little bit about how much time is spent closing versus hunting. Also, how to protect your email domain and make sure that you protect your LinkedIn and make sure it gets delivered. And then a lot of folks are sending out emails on LinkedIn, but not necessarily doing KPIs and A/B testing. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then tool sets. What are you using? How's it working? And then we'll go a little bit into like what I do personally. But I want to mostly talk about best practices and make this more about education than a Full Throttle Filato Leads presentation. So we will begin. So just a little bit of background on me. I've been doing sales for about 25 years. I was one of the first people at monster.com. I was in the Air Force for 12 years. I'm a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and do kickboxing. So I have a lot of background, whether it's military, whether it's software, whether it's working at startups. And the thing is, I've learned what to do, how to lose, and how to learn from it. So I've already taken that out of the life experience of what to do and figuring out how to do it right. So I have access to about 1 billion contacts between LinkedIn and email. And to the right here, you'll see that there's basically some really good companies I've worked with, like the NFL, USTA, TechStation out of New Zealand, Symphony Talent, JobVite, so forth and so forth. So the nickname Full Throttle came from a Marine, and I'm an Air Force vet. So like that will kind of give you an idea of how I take on life. So the current state of many organizations, most people are using emails and LinkedIn manually. They're maybe going after the top 10 accounts, which is great, but they're not scaling out past that fast enough, and they're using SDRs. So it's not necessarily a repeatable and scalable approach when you're doing it manually. A lot of people are using other tools, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. The databases that people use, they'll sometimes buy lists. The problem is that you have to clean those emails before you send them out. They have a lot of high bounce rate. Data gets old pretty fast. COVID killed a lot of jobs, unfortunately, and people moved or switched jobs. So domains will get damaged if you don't clean them, if they get a high bounce rate, and if they get marked as spam. So many companies are using HubSpot, Pardot, Outreach.io, and newly graduated SDRs. The problem with that is that people will hook their Gmail or Office 365 into HubSpot and Pardot and Outreach or their Gmail, and that will basically get your email stopped because you'll have basically scalable data that's will bounce because the data is not right, unless you're constantly in there or you're not using a tool. Zoom is very expensive, and basically newly graduate SDRs are usually not up to par to talk the walk about your subject matter expertise. They're great to kind of get them going, teach them, and then they're going to want to be AEs. So that's the kind of approach there, is that you gotta use other tools if you're going to go around that route. So you gotta look at, do you have AEs on your roster? Are they looking at just middle to end, or are they doing the hunting? Because if they're doing the hunting, that's taking time away from your sales channel and your sales funnel. So you'll get this kind of stack of okay, I just closed the big deal, which is just what happened to me in the past, and then now I got to redo my pipe. So that should, if you have SDRs, that should help feed them. That's why Salesforce invented that years ago. But with AI, with automation, with machine learning, there's ways to automate a lot of the SDR approach so that the SDRs, if you do have somebody, you have less of them, and they're taking more the inbound versus outbound. Because if you don't do it right, again, I have plenty of companies I either worked for or that hired me that had ruined their domain or almost ruined their domain on LinkedIn because they were basically doing it the wrong way. So how do you protect your email domain? Ensure deliverability. how do you make a scalable approach? Well, you got to have a subdomain. You don't use your main domain to send emails. You'll see a lot of people doing that, especially when they're hooking their Gmail or Office 365 into their email situation, which is basically sequencing engine like Outreach, So set up a subdomain. Subdomain also has to do with things like DMARC, DKIM, SPF records, MX records. You got to get those set. Without getting those set, nothing's going to get delivered. So what you need is an email engineer like I have. You got to verify that your domain health, is that something you can actually use subdomains on? What I would suggest is use other domains that have some at least 30 days of use in it, because you cannot use a new domain and send out emails. So use a similar domain and then do a subdomain under that if possible. You want to verify all the different emails going out, make sure that your email records are clean. There's tools for that. And you want to make sure that you're not sending the wrong message to the wrong person, because that will get you marked as spam. So make sure you're automating. Automation does not say, hey, let's do a 15-part email and send out 15 emails. It should be introduction. What do you do for them? How do you do it? Why do you do it? Why should they care? What's the fear of missing out, right? So that should be the start of the email drip. Second one is, hey, just checking in, saw that email. Did you see that email? And the third one should be, hey, I don't know if you're the right contact. Can you tell me a better contact, or I'm going to email you in 30 days. So those usually 3 should be the go-to. I've seen people do, 10 to 12 step. I mean, it looks like automation when you do that. So definitely automate, but automate responsible. Same thing with LinkedIn. You don't want to sit there and send a connection and then hit them with a sales pitch. So I would suggest that you look at LinkedIn groups and do in-mails. And if you join a group, you could send on basically unlimited in-mails a day. I suggest don't going over 150, because if you go over 150, you're basically going to see that LinkedIn is basically trying to maybe shut you down. So you got to be careful how much you do and why you do it and how long you do it. So that's on that. On KPIs and approach, you want to say, okay, here's I'm going to back it out, right? How many meetings do you need a month? Usually 10 to 20 sales qualified meetings is a good goal for you to do when you do outreach on LinkedIn and email. You should definitely measure what's working, use different subject lines, use different content, make sure it's similar audiences when you do the A/B, so you can make sure it's more apples to apples. Make sure that you're looking like what titles, locations, industries are working the best, and then stop doing what's not. You want to tie in anything that can trigger emotions or mentality of deep thought. This is what I'm doing with a client, similar to yours. This is what touches here and here, your heart and your mind. People are worried about their job or about looking good. Most people are not doing things where it's just them as decision makers. So you want to tie in different personas and try to make sure that when you talk to someone, it's more plain spoken, kind of like how I speak, right? I'm not the best speaker, but if you really mean what you say it without using very structured sentences, and use it more about, hey, let's just grab a cup of coffee over Zoom and see if there's a good fit. Here's my calendar, or please send me yours. That's much more relational than being very precise in your language and very grammatically correct. Okay. So what tool sets are you using? You should definitely be using a CRM. The platform I use connects to Salesforce, HubSpot, which is good. You want to basically track what's working, what's not, and basically track that with the deal flow and everything else. You want to make sure, as I said earlier, that your data is kept up weekly. Bad data usually happens every month, each quarter, 10 to 20%. If you're going to do LinkedIn automation, you got to have a right LinkedIn tool that doesn't look like a bot. I have tools that make it look like it's a human being typing. So got to have Sales Navigator. That's the only way to kind of divvy up the data and filter it out. And you should have a team that is just focusing on lead gen. So that's the real deal. Is like, if you're looking at having one person in your startup and you have them to do everything, invest in a tool to basically do that. So now I'm going to get into Why Full Throttle? But before that, let's talk a little bit about my approach, because there's obviously a lot of lead gen companies out there, and there's a lot of unscrupulous ones as well. So what you should look at, does this person have references? Does this person have people that will vouch for them? Personally, I don't want to brag, but I do have over 138 references, and they're all on LinkedIn. So you can all click on these types of names here. I can send you this deck when you want, and see what they said. I also have it in the CSV file. So there's over 20 on Full Throttle, over 138 on me as a person. So that kind of gives you a background. There's a lot of places that ask me to talk about lead generation. And this is one of the reasons why I'm doing this on this event, is they ask me because I'm an expert at what I do. I've been selling for 25 years, and I know how to do lead gen manually and also with automation. And I've really figured out the automation approach in the last 5 years to make it repeatable and scalable, which is what people are looking for whenever they buy anything. So basically, there's 275 million context in the database I use, which is like a ZoomInfo. ZoomInfo is decent, has decent phone numbers, but very expensive. I use a platform that's very similar, but has 275 million contacts. I'm getting on average 10 to 20 meetings a month, 15 to 30% open rates, A/B testing, feeding into HubSpot or Salesforce or any API, CRM, and making sure that we are getting the right data. There's tons of fields that we can look at. Employee size. Did they just raise a Series A? Are they a SAP or a Workday shop? Are they in England or are they in the US? There's tons of ways to sync up the data. There's ways to even think, oh, they're hiring an SDR, like in my case, they're job posting. So maybe I should contact them because maybe I can help them with what their end goal is, which is sales. So things like status signals, intent data, signal data, all those types of things are in this platform. And so basically, if you look, there's intent platform that they just purchased, this company that I use, so I can actually put in different subjects to say, okay, they're high intent, why not try to go after them? This is an example of a company that I work with that's out of Chicago and San Francisco. They basically do marketing, and I'm getting 40, 50, 60% open rates, 10 to 20 meetings a month for this company. And it's if you guys start looking at your data and seeing like how many actually get finished, sent out, delivered, bounce, reply rates, all those things matter. So definitely, whether you're using me or someone else, make sure you look at that. Like I said earlier, it connects to Salesforce, HubSpot, SalesLoft. There's a Zapier API as well. On LinkedIn, there's a very high chance, if you are using automation, especially like a Chrome extension, that you will get your LinkedIn put in jail, your LinkedIn profile or status either deleted, suspended, or in trouble. So what I suggest is that you can only do about 150 emails 150 emails a day. So I automate that. It's about 200 invites you can do a week. I automate that as well. So really focusing on joining groups, like I mentioned earlier, so that you can send a free message. That's a really good tip. Whether you use automation or not, go to groups, join them, then look at the members. If you have Sales Navigator, then you can actually divide those people up by this exactly who you want to talk to and send them a message one by one. If you use me or someone that knows what they're doing, then you can automate that. But tons of fields on Sales Navigator, geography, industry, company headcount, change jobs, mention in news, buying intent as well, connections of a certain person, connect groups, certain account list. You can actually even connect Sales Navigator to your whole team and make sure that you're not hitting the same people. So also view your profile recently is kind of a cool function as well. I also do roundtables. Roundtables are a little bit kind of like what I'm doing today, but it's really more about everybody talking, everybody introducing themselves, what works, what doesn't, how could the group help you today? What's the problem you're working on? So when we do these roundtables, I do one weekly on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Eastern time, but I do them for my clients. You can see here, there's a bunch of ones that I've done. I'm probably getting anywhere from 40 to about 150 people to register, and about 30 to 40% people show up. It's a great way to kind of look as an educational approach, a challenger sales approach, and making sure that people are understanding best practices in networking with each other, who you are, what you do, why you're here, what's your superpower, what can we do to help you today? That's the questions I ask of each person. Now, it's not about your company when I do this for you. It's not about me when I do it for me. But guess what? People remember that you did it for them, and that you're a networking tool. So be a connector, be a solution provider, be an expert, and then you'll basically look at it. If you look at what it costs to hire an internal SDR in most first world countries, Australia, New Zealand, UK, Europe, US, Canada, it's $4,000 to $5,000 US. So if you look at the left and the right of this, it basically is about the same price to hire someone like myself than it is to hire one SDR who can do maybe a third or fourth of what I can do. I'm doing 300,000 to 400,000 touches a year, producing on a steady pace of 10 to 20 meetings a month. And I don't have Social Security, unemployment, all these other things that you do when you have to hire someone. And then obviously with SDR, they usually want to go and be an AE, so you have to backfill, or they just don't want to do this anymore because it's kind of a burnout job when you're doing it manually. This is a case that I put together working at TechMate. They were just seed round company. They just started using HubSpot. They weren't sure exactly what they were doing as far as outreach. I helped them go from 250K to 2.8 million within 15 months. They raised the Series A and raised a lot of money because of that. I basically set up their email, their LinkedIn. We started doing roundtables, getting about 20 plus meetings a month. So there is a repeatable and scalable approach here that I've done this for more than companies like TechMate. I actually took my company from 0 to 650 the first year, $1 million last year, $1.5 million this year. And it's really, this is a small company that understands automation and bots. So why Full Throttle? Well, I know how to set up your domain. I know how to I have an email engineer that sets it up. I have creative people that will set up your campaigns, your content. I also have 25 years of selling. So really what your ROI should be is hopefully 1 or 2 deals should pay for me pretty easily. And that's when you're doing 10 to 20 meetings a month. It's as low as $3,000 a month. Basically, it's doing LinkedIn at first. If you want to do LinkedIn email roundtables, it gets up to 5K a month. So that's basically it. Please ask any questions. I'm going to be available at this virtual conference here, and I'll make sure that I answer it. You can text me at 512-639-3375 or email me at Michael@Full Throttle Leads, and then we can set up a one-to-one time. All right. Thank you.